Motor racing returned to Ireland on the last weekend of July 2020 with an IMRC race meeting at Mondello, and the exciting Formula Boss Ireland cars were scheduled for qualifying and 2 races on the Sunday. A great effort was made by both organisers and competitors to maintain the highest standards of health and safety in these challenging times. Fresh rubber was fitted to some very well prepared cars after their extended hibernation. 18 drivers planned to take the start, but unfortunately John Daly's Lola failed to leave the garage. It was a jittery session with a number of yellow flags due to spins and mechanical problems. Shane Rabbit pulled in early with brakes that were binding, but did manage to complete 6 laps and secure 12th place on the grid for the race 1. Nick Cunningham Murat spun and damaged the rear end of his car and was unfortunately out of action for the rest of the day. The starting grid looked like this, with Tom Cochran starting from the pit lane after breaking a drive shaft. We caught up with many of the drivers after qualifying. In pole position was former Boss champion and 2-time UK F3 Cup winner Cian Carey, making his return to home turf.
Yeah, it's nice to be back. Obviously the way the world is at the moment restricted us from going to the UK, but we have the experience from Boss Ireland from 2016, so I know most of the lads around, and it was nice to be in England. We won 2 championships the last 2 years, but driving the same cars as these, so have the experience in them obviously, but great for today to get out and be on pole position first race of the season. We had a bit of a messy session with a shearing wheel nut at the start and the wheel coming loose, so we missed quite a couple of laps, but we got the times in the end, and hopefully there's more to come for the race. It's hard to know who's going to be quick, who's going to be not, but normally when we're racing in a one-make series, you know within a certain time what everyone's going to be. There's some cars here capable of crazy quick times, so it's nice. It's a different challenge this year, and I'm looking forward to it.
2-time Boss champion Paul O'Connell told us about a little bit of a gear change issue with the Dallara World Series car.
Slight issue, alright. It was perfect for the first half of the session, but with a little bit of sticky downshift. It wouldn't downshift for the second half, so we're just think we found the problem hopefully, and we'll get it cured and fixed and ready to go again. It's rare. It's like the first problem we've ever really had with this car, funnily enough, in like a year and a bit. So, fingers crossed, easy fixed.
He was happy to be on the front row in such good company.
Second on the grid, front row slot, beside Cian Carey, unbelievably quick in the F3 car. It's a great position to be in. Delighted, given the level of machinery and talent out. Absolutely delighted now to be able to do that and put it on the front row. Really looking forward to the race start now.
Barry Rabbit, who we recorded winning the Leinster Trophy at Mondello in September last year, is on the second row of the grid and is looking forward to fitting a turbo to his Formula Renault.
Yeah, not too bad. Happy enough with that. Probably a little bit more time in the car, but we're just getting back into it. Probably not enough to get onto the front row. So happy with that. The F3 is obviously probably the best car in Keane as well. Experience as we know, and Paul is reigning champion 2 years. So I'm happy with that little 2-litre. I don't have the turbo on the car just yet. That's going on later in the year, so that should bridge the gap. But it's great. We're enjoying being back out, and thanks to all the sponsors, Pallet Storage, Deliver It, Ears, Motorsport, Stash, all them guys. Precision Graphics done a great job and turning out these 2 cars, so only for them we wouldn't be here. But yeah, looking forward to getting out now in the race and seeing if we can get into the mix.
Eamon Matheson, who likes to let his driving do the talking, was proud of his qualifying result. Multiple hill climb champion Joe Courtney is in his second season of this race series and is happy to be back behind the wheel.
We're out here in the Formula 3 today and going pretty well, happy enough. Did a bit of testing on Friday, made a few changes. Great to go out and qualifying again, good to be back. Nice to look at a timing screen and see some results again, because we've done a bit of testing, but it's never the same until you actually see a timesheet or a screen. But happy enough, 5th on the grid. A few changes with the car. Similar lap time to my best last year, but I think there's a bit more in it, but we're getting there.
Sylvie Mullins' Powerful Gould was unfortunately not ready for this race weekend, so he was out with the F305 Honda.
We were yellow flagged for most of the first session, so we were trying to get a bit of time in on that, and it was red flagged then, I suppose, maybe 7-8 laps in. So we got a bit of a misfire, and we thought it was fuel, we don't know yet. So we qualified 7th, so we're still going to go out and check on the outlap and see. The misfire seems okay now, but it was more high up the rev. So look, we're going to go out and give it a dash and see how we get on.
Michael Roach was sharing the 4th row with Mullins and also experienced a hectic qualifying.
It went okay. Look, no problems anyway, but I suppose I wasn't as fast as I'd like to be. But look, we're working on a new car, getting used to it. Plenty of excuses. So it's a bit hectic out there, a lot of cars and yellow flags. But look forward. The car's still going good anyway, so try and improve in the race now.
Peter Dwyer was sharing a garage with Roach, which led to some friendly banter. He was debuting his Lola Nissan V6.
New car, first time out. Yeah, happy enough with it. I need to knock 2 seconds off and I'll be up with young Mick Roach. And then another second and I'm ahead of him. But car's running great. And happy out. Good day, it's not raining.
Gary Graham was making his return to the Boss Series and happy to be in the thick of it, with 11th on the grid.
Yeah, back after a few years, did the Boss Series a couple of years ago, so I said I'd come back and give it another go, see how it goes. Yeah, the Formula Renault I bought off Stanley Watkins. I have it now about 18 months, so haven't had a whole lot of driving in it really. But was out one day testing there about 3 weeks ago and it was going well, so this was the second day out in the car, so I'm happy enough, pleased now with the grid position and the times we're doing, so yeah, good.
John Stewart had an off very early in the qualifying session, which damaged his nose cone, but a bit of bush engineering would have him back out for the races.
Yeah, I managed to put it off after about 500 yards. I think I'm left foot braking for the first time, and I think my right foot wanted to assist, only it hit the accelerator.
He was very impressed with the event preparations.
Credit to the organisers for getting everything in place and doing the sanitising and the masks and everything else to allow it to happen. So congratulations to them for running a good event.
Tom Cochran had a really bad start to the day, breaking a drive shaft coming out of the pits.
Yeah, just snapped one coming out into pit lane, so couldn't get out and doing any qualifying, so it's a pit lane start. So we'll do a bit of a chase and see where we can get to, you know.
He's trying to put a lot of power down through those back wheels.
Well, there's probably the guts of 500, about 500 horsepower. So, look, we had 3 days testing, didn't have a problem with shaft. So, look, we'll just see how the 2 races go. You know?
You could almost feel the pent-up tension of these racers in the air as they headed out on their warm-up lap. And what a start we had from Paul O'Connell and Eamon Matheson. O'Connell doing well to hold off the Jade at the first corner. Unfortunately, Tom Cochran's driveshaft problems seem to have persisted, hardly making it to the track there at all. By the start of lap 2, Barry Rabbit had established himself ahead of Cian Carey in 3rd place, with Fergus Faherty in 5th, followed by Joe Courtney and Sylvie Mullins. Michael Roach had dropped right down the order. Peter Dwyer had moved up 8th, and Derek Daly's F302 Toyota just behind. Gary Graham was leading a chasing pack with John Stewart and Mark Dempsey, and Michael Roach starting his fight back. Lap 3 in Madison was bunching up Rabbit and Carey, allowing O'Connell to stretch his lead. Fergus Faherty had dropped behind the field and was beginning his own fight back. O'Connell had quite a lead by the start of lap 4, but Rabbit and Carey had passed Matheson. The chase was on. Dwyer was now up to 6th ahead of Daly, with Roach closing in on him. Faherty took 9th off Graham at the beginning of the lap, followed by Stewart and Dempsey. By the end of the lap, Carey had taken 2nd from Rabbit and was working hard to make it stick. Now the F3 Dallara had the World Series in its sights. Michael Roach had caught Derek Daly and was now reeling in garage mate Dwyer's Lola. Fergus Faherty was following Roach through the field after passing Gary Graham. Stewart and Dempsey were maintaining their positions, and such was the pace that O'Connell was now coming up on the back of the field. And Carey was free of Rabbit. Joe Courtney had overtaken Eamon Matheson on lap 4 to take charge of 4th position and would hold these positions to the end. Roach was now challenging Dwyer for his 6th place. By the beginning of lap 7, he was through with Flaherty on his tail. After their charge through the field, Fergus Flaherty was really challenging Roach's 6th place at the beginning of lap 7. And you can just see how close Carey was to O'Connell beginning lap 8. Flaherty made a huge effort on the outside of Roach here on what would become the last full lap before the race ended under the safety car with these positions. First blood, after the extraordinary break, goes to last year's champion, Paul O'Connell. Back in the paddock, we caught up with some of the drivers who were having a difficult restart to motorsport. Fergus Flaherty told us about his spin in the first race and his impressive fight back.
Got a bit of a spin in the first race, got up to 4th from 6th start and spun out the country, so I did, unfortunately, Got back from last back to 7th, Just on new tyres, unfortunately, just didn't get a chance to scrub them in enough because I didn't use them to qualify. So they were new, third lap, I think, they just stepped out in the rear and I didn't catch it, that's all.
A driveshaft failure in Michael Connolly's Radical meant he missed the start of race 1, having qualified 9th. Luckily, Tom Cochran carries a good supply of them.
Tom Cochran, Turbo Radical, has volunteered one of his driveshafts very kindly.
At least for Mark Dempsey, his problems came later in the race.
I didn't get a great start setting up the line there. I don't know what I was going really reasonably well there, top set there, and the car started slowing down. I had the tyre started to lose grip there, and when I came around then, just came out to go into the last corner, down that corner there, both there, just the edge left shot, so I don't know actually, something left shot inside, so after that I don't know, let's see what to investigate more, but I'm out for the day anyway there, so hopefully I'm out for the August run, please God,
Shane Rabbit had missed the first race due to his brake problems and was really under pressure to get out in race 2.
We've used a brake issue. The pedal's getting solid after a lap or 2, which is just applying the brakes on all the time, so the car's undrivable. So we're in the middle of rebuilding 3 master cylinders here, and hopefully we'll get them. Hopefully that's the problem first of all, and secondly, hopefully we'll have enough time to get them back into the car and out on the grid for. I think we've got 30 minutes to get the car sorted, so we're getting there.
John Daly hadn't left the garage yet with the wonderful 1993 Lola F3000, but was optimistic about race 2.
She's back running again. We had trouble, we were down on Friday, we went to go out on qualifying our testing and she wouldn't start. We had a starter issue, brought it home, put a new starter in it, started it, ran everything on Friday night. Back into the Larry down here this morning, getting ready to go out for quali. She wouldn't start again. Missed the qualifying and got the starter fixed, and she's running like a watch starting wise, and then she wouldn't start. We had an electrical issue, so we've fixed that now and all going well, and we'll be out at 4 o'clock.
Derek Daly was having a much more reliable day in his F302 Toyota.
Yeah, just inside the top 10, 9th, qualified I think 13th or 14th. Had a very bad qualifying. I suppose still is probably rusty, haven't been an awful lot done this year. The car is super car, there's no doubt about it.
This was the grid for the second race. And there was major drama at the start with Paul O'Connell stalling on the front row. The rest of the drivers did very well to avoid the broad World Series car. Eamon Matheson made full use of the staggered grid pattern to spring out in front of race 1 winner Cian Carey. O'Connell's crew did an heroic job to push him past the pit wall where they could work to get him restarted. Matheson led the first lap from Carey, followed by Barry Rabbit, Joe Courtney, Fergus Faherty, Sylvie Mullins, Michael Roach, Michael Connolly, Shane Rabbit, Peter Dwyer, Tom Cochran, John Stewart, Gary Graham and Derek Daly. Paul O'Connell was yet to get going. Barry Rabbit made this daring manoeuvre on Carey at the last corner of the second lap, squeezing in behind Matheson. Tom Cochran was streaking through the back of the field in the white Radical SR8 Turbo. John Stewart in 12th was leading Gary Graham and Derek Daly at the end of lap 2, but Daly passed Graham at the beginning of 3. Rabbit led Carey at the end of 3 after they both passed the Jade, and Joe Courtney had Fergus Faherty right on his gearbox. Daly had put a bit of distance between him and Graham. At the end of the 4th lap, Carey made this lovely manoeuvre up the inside of Rabbit to take the lead of the race. Matheson was dropping back in 3rd, followed by Faherty, who just passed Courtney now, with Sylvie Mullins also going through. Tom Cochran was continuing to rise, having passed Peter Dwyer on this lap. Derek Daly was starting to challenge John Stewart, with Gary Graham watching closely. Out in front, Cian Carey was starting to build a lead from Barry Rabbit. For Fergus Faherty, passing Matheson on the final corner was not enough to hold the powerful sports car on the straight. O'Connell was finally on the go, driving hard but too far behind to make a result. This was an opportunity to push the car and the tyres. On lap 6, Carey stretched his lead over Rabbit, and Faherty got free of Matheson to secure 3rd. Sylvie Mullins was now dicing with the Jade. The two Nissan V6s were sounding supreme, and Peter Dwyer was soon to inherit a position from Tom Cochran, who was about to stop. At the end of lap 7, Gary Graham was having a look past Daly as Cian Carey caught up with them from behind. Mullins was now clear of Matheson, with Joe Courtney and Michael Roach now approaching the rapid starter. This was some drag race between the Turbo Radical and the World Series car down the main straight. Unfortunately, that's the last we'd see of Tom Cochran in this race. The only thing that could upset Carey's progress now would be an upset in traffic. Derek Daly used the passing Barry Rabbit to follow through and pass John Stewart here. The Connollys had gotten their Radical back together in time for the race, and Michael was maintaining 8th position at this point. Carey was enjoying some clear road as Rabbit and Farty were making their way safely through the traffic. Daly looked like he was getting a tow from Farty to stretch ahead of Graham, who was now past John Stewart himself. On their 9th lap, Joe Courtney and Michael Roach passed Eamon Matheson, who was really dropping back now down the field. Barry Rabbit must have been thinking a lot about his planned turbo installation as Cian Carey stretched ahead. Fergus Faherty was now free of the group of backmarkers that Mullins was now negotiating. Michael Connolly was now challenging the Jade with the Radical in a nice sports car head-to-head. Carey was just about to start his 12th lap, on which he'd break the class record set by Sylvie Mullins in 2008 with a 50.948. Faherty was still in touch with Rabbit, and Mullins now had the clear track in 4th. Peter Dwyer and Derek Daly were keeping close company. Shane Rabbit's engineering works must have paid off, as he was now challenging Eamon Matheson for 9th. Carey completes his flying lap as the race positions begin to settle behind him. Barry Rabbit 2nd. Fergus Faherty 3rd. Sylvie Mullins 4th. Paul O'Connell was still too many laps down to make an impression on the race, still making great sounds alongside Peter Dwyer's Lola, just 1 lap down on the leaders. Joe Courtney 5th, with Michael Roach 6th, heading through the traffic now. Connolly was having a much better afternoon, up to 7th at this point. Shane Rabbit was able to follow the leader past Matheson into 8th. The boss drivers were really pounding the laps out now and putting on a display of first-class machinery at this return to motorsport weekend in Mondello. Cian Carey completing his lap 14, with Shane Rabbit, Eamon Matheson and Peter Stewart a lap down. Barry Rabbit preserving his margin over Fergus Faherty. Followed by Sylvie Mullins and Paul O'Connell in his own world series. And Joe Courtney in 5th. Just as positions were starting to look settled, Derek Daly had this unfortunate spin while holding 11th spot. This could have been a very dangerous moment for race leader Carey if Daly hadn't been patient before turning. This allowed Gary Graham through to take the position. Shane Rabbit had just taken Michael Connolly's 7th place off him on this lap too. Daly had regained the track and was on his way again before our 2nd and 3rd place drivers arrived. O'Connell was still blasting around, and I'm sure Mullins would love to have had his ghoul to respond to that retort.
The Formula Boss cars create such evocative sights and sounds.
Cian Carey heading down to the finish of the 17-lap race. This was the finishing order. Back in the garages, we asked race 1 winner, Paul O'Connell, how that had gone for him.
No, first race was brilliant. Got a good start. Started from P2 in the front row. Got a good start and just managed to jump Cian Carey in the start. And luckily for me, Eamon Matheson came from 4th, right up to 2nd in the green missile, and managed to hold off Cian for a little bit and delay him while I scarpered down the road. And luckily for me, my brake pedal was actually starting to go long. So it was every time going down into the first corner, I was wondering, is this thing going to stop or not? But I knew Cian was hunting me down, so there was no choice, just went at it 110%. Cian eventually did catch up with me, but there were a couple of yellow flag zones, and eventually the race's safety car was sent out, and the race finished then under safety car.
And then we had to ask what went wrong in race 2.
Up and heartbroken. Stalled the car for the first time ever on the second row, or P2's first row of the grid again. Stalled the car on the line, and just a huge thanks to all the rest of the drivers who managed to avoid me. Luckily at driver's briefing we did have a chat about stalling cars in the line because they are very hard to get going. But everyone avoided me, but I lost 2 laps in total, 2 or 3 laps. By the time the car actually reset, we had to reset the power to get it back up and running.
It had been a more consistent day for race 2 winner, Cian Carey.
Yeah, it's nice to get the first win of the season. Made it hard for myself in race 1. I'm a bit disappointed I didn't get it. We definitely had the pace. But yeah, I was just getting a good start there, and I knew once I got through turn 1, I could make it easier myself. So delighted to get down to the pace we had. I think we won it by over 10 seconds. So hopefully we can build on that now for the rest of the season. We're going to do the rest of them. The next one's the end of August, and then we've the Leinster Trophy. That's the main reason I'm back, get some practice in, and hopefully we can at least all get our name in it for a second time.
It was a great restart for Boss Racing at Mondello, with 2 different race winners, but a clear championship leader in Cian Carey after these 2 championship rounds.